welcome to Policing TV. I'm delighted to be joined by newly elected Cumbria Police, Fire and Crime Commissioner, David Allen. David, congratulations on your recent election. You are Cumbria's first Labour Police, Fire and Crime Commissioner. Um, as a new commissioner, many watching this may well not know about your background. Please tell us about that, and also what led to you deciding to put yourself forward to stand for election as a police, fire and crime commissioner.
Pleased to meet you, Bernard. Thank you very much. Thank you for the congratulations. So, background, probably different from a lot of current police and crime commissioners. I come from a long history and a long family history of policing. A number of my family are serving police officers, previous police officers. My sister and my brother-in-law were both police officers. But my background is I joined Cumbria Police in 1986 as a young probationer constable and served in Carlisle. I worked all over the county at different ranks, from constable to inspector, working in rural policing. I was a village bobby for a couple of years. And I worked, as I say, all over the county, from Carlisle to Barrow to work at Whitehaven, Penrith, etc. In 2000, I went to the National Criminal Intelligence Service and the National Crime Squad, and I headed up their Professional Standards Department, which is the Anti-Corruption Command. So dealing with corrupt law enforcement officers and the harm they caused. Following that, I went and worked for 4 years as part of the Serious Organised Crime Agency in the Netherlands, and I headed up our international liaison officers for Western Europe, tackling serious and organised crime, so drug trafficking, people trafficking, child sexual exploitation, impacting the UK through Europe. And towards the end of that time abroad, I ran the Europol Bureau for the UK, based at Europol in The Hague. And I was head of the Europol National Unit, and I sat on the Europol Management Board, so I was responsible for the strategic and tactical direction of 32 European countries and their policing work against serious and organised crime. Following that, I returned back to the UK and I headed up the Fugitives Unit for the UK, so European arrest warrants, and brought in what's called the Schengen Information System into the UK. Following that, I then took over as head of the UK International Crime Bureau, which is the Interpol and Europol Bureau in the National Crime Agency, and I retired from that in 2016. From 2016, the last 8 years, I've worked in the NHS in North Cumbria, and most recently, for the last 4 years, I've been deputy head of HR in North Cumbria Integrated Care NHS Trust. Prior to taking this role.
Thank you very much for that introduction, David. Now, then, what led you to put yourself forward for election as Cumbria Police, Fire and Crime Commissioner?
Good question. To be very honest, probably my wife played a large part. I found myself more and more, as various Home Secretaries were on the television, I found myself becoming more interested in politics, shouting at the television of an evening as to when certain directions of travel took place. And my wife quite clearly said that she was getting a little tired of this, and either I, stopped shouting at the TV and spoiling her evenings, or I did something about it. So I did something about it, which was joined the Labour Party, took part with our prospective parliamentary candidate for Carlisle in her selection process, and then door knocking. And through that, I was persuaded by Labour Party members to put myself forward because of my background as a candidate for the Cumbria PFCC selection for Labour, which I did. Fortunate enough to do that. And then for the last 6 months, I've been knocking on doors, talking to thousands of people all over Cumbria, ringing people, hundreds of people, most nights since November as well. But basically, I didn't like the direction of travel nationally in terms of politics. When Home Secretaries start talking about taking away our human rights, i.e. the Human Rights Act, that really, really concerns me. There are bits of the Human Rights Act I'm particularly keen on. So, for example, Article 6, the right to a fair trial, I am particularly fond of. the right to protection from the state, Article 8, so you can have a private family life. Again, yes, the police and other agencies have to have the power and the right to be able to breach those rights, but they have to do it properly and with due regard. It's got to be proportionate. To me, taking away the safeguards that protect the individual from the powers of the state worried me quite a lot, and that really was probably the defining moment for me.
You mentioned national politics there. We'll come back to national politics in a moment or two. But what I'd like to do, you mentioned there you've spent 6 months campaigning, knocking doors on the phone. What have people in Cumbria been telling you during that time?
Main thing is they're ready for a change. A lot of apathy out there in terms of politics. You know, when I got on the door with a couple of things, oh, you're all the same. And then I spent time telling them how I was not the same. With my background and experience, it was relatively straightforward to do that. But the main things I've been hearing from people, no surprise in terms of wider picture, it's been cost of living, NHS, and then antisocial behaviour. In terms of policing, it was antisocial behaviour, rural crime, and we don't see a police officer. And that was really the message. Whether I was in Carlisle or whether I was in Cleaton Moor or Maryport or Workington, it didn't really matter whether it was a town or rural. We do not see a police officer. And yet the tale we were getting from the previous PFCC was actually, you've got more police officers in Cumbria than you have ever had, which is true on paper, but they're not visible.
So that brings us on to now having been elected and to serve a 4-year time. Let's hope a pandemic doesn't come back and change the timescale on that. But a 4-year term, what have you committed to do, and how do you plan to go about delivering on those commitments?
So basically, my commitments are exactly that: more visible policing, tackling antisocial behaviour, tackling rural crime. There's bits in there around, investing in vital community work. I have the fire service under me, so it's making sure that now that that's come out of our county council as was, making sure that's on a reasonably good financial footing. And finally, domestic abuse, violence against women and girls, which is a big thrust for the Labour Party going forward, as it should be. In terms of what I'm doing, first and foremost, this week, first week in the job, is around a lot of briefing. What have we got where? What are we doing with our resources? How can we use them better? And I was out yesterday in Carlisle with a number of community beat officers and the neighbourhood policing lead to get their take on how they think it's working. And Cumbria has started to invest again in its community beat officers, but we need to do more, and we need more of them that are out there and visible. One of the things we are doing, and we'll be announcing this next month, is we've got funding from the Home Office to target 18 antisocial behaviour hotspots in Cumbria. We've got £1 million, which we'll be investing in additional staff, additional resource in those targeted areas. So that's one of the first things I'm doing. Longer term, what I want to do is make more community beat officers, more neighbourhood policing teams. I want, exactly as it says in the manifesto, to have a named police officer for each and every ward within the county, so that people know, if they need to speak to a police officer, they know it's Dave Allen who is their police officer. They know how to get hold of them, because that's half the battle. The 101 system is not always the easiest to navigate. Nor are the force websites. So how do you find out who's responsible for looking after your patch? Make that easy so they're visible, get them out more, make it easy for the public to contact them, but also importantly, making sure that the officers are going out, talking to the public more. When I was in Carlisle yesterday, it was amazing how many people came and talked to the 3 officers I was with. It was like, watching sort of a thirsty man in a desert suddenly rush up to the oasis. There was lots of people wanted to speak to them. For everything from asking directions to, genuine policing matters. That was where I want to get us to.
So, looking to what it is that you do locally, David, you have the advantage of understanding about policing from your substantial policing career. What areas can others help you on to get up to speed in order for you to be delivering on the full responsibilities as a police, fire and crime commissioner? Are there areas where your office, the force, partners that you're working with across Cumbria, or maybe even the people of Cumbria can help you, support you in what you're looking to do on their behalf over these coming years?
There is. Policing is like anything complex. We cannot, the police service themselves cannot do this in isolation. In this country, we do operate policing by consent. It's a phrase often used and often misused. But my view is, effectively, we do our bit, you do your bit, whether that is the public. So I would say in the rural areas, we used to have a pretty effective farm watch. Let's get that stood up again. Let's get it working properly. Same with neighbourhood watch. In this day and age with mobile phones, they should be operating better than they ever used to do. Yeah, I don't see the evidence of that. So we need to make sure it is. In terms of wider involvement, I'm already involved in looking at getting additional AMPR fixed and mobile resources for the constabulary, so that our main arterial routes are well covered, but you come off those. So getting the technology off the arterial routes, so that when what criminals do, and what we find is that it's literally sort of within 10, 20 minutes drive off our main motorways and main A roads is where they're committing the rural crime, stealing the high value satellite parts, or that are on our farm machinery, or the quad bikes or farm machinery generators, etc. So if we extend our network of automatic number plate recognition, actually one can build up a better picture of around what the travel is in and out of those areas, and also target and tackle them. So we know where to put resources, and we can then find them should there be crimes committed, etc. So that's one of the investments we're going to be putting in. The other one is I want to extend our rural crime team so that there are more staff available out in our rural areas, and much the same as I'm doing with the town centre community beat officers. So again, you've got visibility, and visibility does bring prevention and deterrence. And on the back of that, there will be an intelligence-led approach. With my background coming from the National Criminal Intelligence Service, you would expect that.
So let's move to national now, and I'm grateful, David, for you being generous with your time on this. So hopefully we'll pick up on some of these matters on future policing TV content. But the national position, the Association of Police and Crime Commissioners, APCC, brings all PCCs, PFCCs, mayors with policing responsibilities together. And they have a number of portfolios that will be up for reassignation, in part because the PCCs will have changed. Do you have particular areas? Do you have an appetite for getting involved nationally? And if so, what sorts of areas will your interest lie in?
I do. There is a mistaken impression that Cumbria is a sleepy little backwater. It's absolutely not. In terms of performance, the force is really, really high performing, and I'm looking forward to the HMIC report coming out in July that should hopefully demonstrate how well the force is doing. Secondly, this part of the country, we've had in the last decade and a half 3 major climate events, massive floods, we've had wildfires, and we've had incidents like major shooting events as well in the last sort of in everybody's lifetime, last 15 years. So it is not a sleepy hollow. So yes, I want to get onto the national stage. I want to help drive some of that. There is a tendency for the big metropolitan forces to dominate, and I don't see why that should be. A large proportion of the UK's population do not live in the major metropolises, so let's get them well represented. In terms of what I'd be looking for, yes, I would love to do organised crime. I don't think the individual sat on that is standing down, so that's something I'll keep a watching eye on for the future. That said, I'm quite sure that I can provide valuable insight and intelligence to whoever is in that position, and the Home Office as well. So what I've been looking for, and what I have expressed an interest for as early as this morning, is looking at local policing. So tackling antisocial behaviour, the likes of Operation Uplift, the increasing police numbers in the town centres, etc., getting more police resource. That is what I've expressed my preference for today. And that's what I'll be looking to do. And that's quite a big national portfolio. It's not as simple as just tackling antisocial behaviour in town centres. It covers everything from urban policing to rural policing, automatic number plate recognition, use of technology in those town centres, etc. So that's what I've put in for, because again, it matches my manifesto commitment.
David, I'll say again, you've been generous with your time. Thank you so much for that. I do look forward to returning to these matters in the future with Policing TV. Just remains for me to wish you, your office, the force, and indeed the partners, the many partners that you work with across Cumbria and nationally, all the very best in your and their efforts to bring even better policing across Cumbria. So thank you, David Allen, Cumbria Police, Fire and Crime Commissioner, for your time.
Bernard, thank you very much.